Hey, welcome back to the show. I've been meaning to do a Boss Katana tone video for so long now, it's not funny. I've dialed in loads of playlists and different tones and I've just never got there. I keep running out of time, but today I figure we'll just have an epic marathon, just go through all the different tones, all the new ones. There's links in the video description for all my presets for this in my Google Drive. I've just been putting them all there. And I know it's been a little bit disjointed until now. They've sort of been playlists all over the place, but I've gone through and just consolidated it all, tried to make it make sense and updated the whole thing. So go ahead, check it out. Everything that we're going through today will be in there, plus all the others from previous videos. So stick around, we'll try and get through it all. Just quickly before we get into the video, I'm using the Boss Katana Mark II 100-watt head, and that's going through the 2 notes Torpedo Captor X today, where I'm actually using a Dave Mustaine 412 V30 cab, and that's just what's simulating the cab. There's no sound going on in the room, and that's what's being captured through my audio interface. Sadly, the Mark II presets playlist, they just don't work with the Mark I version of the Katana, so I'll try and show all the different screenshots and just the tones and just how we got there to start with today, just to try and help out those people. But other than that, we'll just get on with the tones. So the first lot of tones brings us into a modern day testament where Eric Peterson used the 5150, the 6L6. As we know, the Boss Katana absolutely nails the EVH 5150, so these tones really are just a walk in the park for it, but they're really cool all the same. This first preset is the Titans of Creation. I'll just show you the input EQ, as well as the output EQ, and now the booster in the front. And this is the Titans of Creation rhythm tone on the whole album. You can hear there the voicing of the Katana just seems to really capture that whole EVH 5150, does testament to a T. So the tones are there for the other albums as well, like Brotherhood of the Snake. It's very similar to this one as well. Dark Roots of Earth, that one's in there. It's a little bit sharper, there's a little bit different going on just with the front end of the input there. And you get the idea there, it's a little bit thrashier than that. And then the Formation of Damnation, this just is a little bit warmer, there's a little bit more ambience going on, and I think it captures that whole and again, it's a really cool sort of sound. There's a lot more ambience going on there. It's a little bit more full, but we got so many presets to get through today. I've got to keep moving. And the next few presets brings us into Power Trip. I've just had to change the guitars. I'm in E standard tuning for this one. For all the testament, we're in E flat on that guitar. This is E standard for Power Trip. And Blake Ibanez just writes the coolest riffs. They're so simple, but they seem to get the job done. And the whole vibe with Power Trip, I just think is just so cool. It's this old school vibe, but anyway, again, we'll just get into it all. And the rhythm tone is fairly straightforward. It's cool just to jam along with that album. But I find where the Katana really shines for this, you can really duplicate that lead style tone for that echo delay that Blake has on his guitar solos. It's a weird sounding delay, and I would never usually have just like dialed into this sort of tone, but when you play it and you mix it in with the record, it just sounds huge. And that's such a fun tone to just play around with, make noise with the whammy bar. But that's what's going on with the delay there, just a really short millisecond delay. It's got high cutoff, reverb there. There's not too much with the reverb, it's just mostly that space sort of delay style thing going on. And they're the different EQs. It really is just the rhythm tone with the delay over the top. Next, it brings us to some Exodus tones. The first one off the rank is Fabulous Disaster, and this is just a really cool tone. It's E standard guitar. For the album, if you tune to 425 Hertz and then just tune to E, you're sort of halfway between E and E flat. I can't play along with the record for this one as this guitar is just in E, but you get the idea. Fabulous Disaster. It's a really cool sort of beefy tone. There's a lot of low mids going on there. But if you're wondering how I'm dialing in these tones using the Boss Katana, a lot of it has to do with this input EQ. And you can see here that I really scoop out a lot of the frequencies around the 65, 125 Hertz mark. And they just seem to, if you have those in there and they're fairly high, I'll just push these up a little bit. And you could hear there when I just boosted those frequencies on that input that you almost just got this unnatural sort of boomy bottom end that just sort of pushed through, that it's an unnatural sound. And I found if you just sort of scoop a little bit of those frequencies out, you get it just sounding more like the original 5150 or original amp that it's actually trying to do, and it's not so unnatural, but you can still sort of push those frequencies up around the 500 and 1K mark. And that just adds like a little bit of an edge to the tone, and you can really just sort of sculpt the whole amp to sound as you want it to. But that's the actual input EQ that I use for this preset, and then for the output EQ, you can see I'm just boosting a lot of those bass frequencies there on the outboard EQ. It's totally separate than the inboard, and that just makes it sort of sound like the record, pushing those frequencies that we want. But next it brings us into the realm of the later Exodus albums. So I've just swapped my guitar now. This is the LTD 600. I've got the AMG HZH4 pickup in it. We're down in D standard, and pretty much every Exodus album from Tempo of the Damned onwards is in D standard. And I've called this Atrocity, but it seems to cover most of them pretty well. And that tone really needs no other introduction. Gary Holt's an absolute menace. I'll just show you what's going on with the input EQ. Yeah, it's really pushing those front mids, and then just in the booster, again, we're using that mid boost in the front end just to really drive it hard. But anyway, next lot of presets. And this next entire playlist is all dedicated to Gojira. It's got all the tones of pretty much all the albums that they had, and all the iconic tones that had little bits of changes in them. We'll just go through it really quickly. But the first one, this is off the Master Series album. It's just the rhythm tone. I've got it labeled there as Backbone. This is the EQ going in, and then the parametric EQ going out. Nothing else is really going on with this tone. It's really basic, it's straightforward. And those tones are absolutely pummeling. They work with the record really well. You've got the Fortitude one as well. And the other rhythm tones are all in there for the other albums. There's only very minor sort of changes going on from album to album. They've pretty much kept their same sound the whole way, but yeah. And this is that semi-clean tone off the Flying Whales. And these next presets, Silvera 1 and 2, this is just the main rhythm tone for the song, and Silvera 2 is that harmonized section where he goes into the tapping and you get that, like that octave where he uses Digitech whammy. And this rhythm tone is really just a lot more sort of rounded, and it's a big fatter tone more than the Master Cirrus. And that brings us into Silvera 2 for that harmony. And you get the idea there. It's really fun, it's really cool to play around with. And if you happen to have the foot controller, you can just turn that effect on and off and just have the rhythm tone go straight to that delay harmony sort of thing. But anyway, next preset brings us Shooting Star. I just really love the intro to this. It's a unique tone. And for those of you with a Boss Katana Mark 1, I've just got a bit of a booster going on, a flanger in the effects, some delay as well as reverb. And that is the inboard and outboard parametric EQ. Righto, I told you this was going to be an epic video. I hope you're still here. This next playlist is dedicated to Mastodon, and for this I'm using my Jackson Dominion guitar. It's fitted with the Mojo Tone signature set of Bill Kellier Hellbender pickups, and these are absolutely amazing pickups. I'm blown away how cool they are. They're passive humbuckers that just have a blend of ceramic as well as Alnico magnets in them. And Alnico magnets give you that warmth, and the ceramic just give you that really sort of chunky, harsh edge. So they really do just bring it together beautifully, and you get this big fat tone that's just crunchy as hell. But anyway, this is a great tone just to play along with most Mastodon albums. And for the main tone for that, we're just running the Gov distortion through the front end for the boost to give it that Marshall-esque style tone. And then for the inboard and outboard EQs, we're just pushing those frequencies. Next, it brings us to Blood and Thunder. This doesn't really need too much to talk about. And then for other tones that they've got going on, they've got a lot of really subtle, cool tones in all their albums. And one that really stood out to me was the whole beast that... And that's just a really cool sort of tone that I found that Katana just did really well. It's got that whole plexi sort of vibe going on. It's a little bit distorted. It's got that shimmer, the high end. It's just such a cool amp. It's so much fun to play around with this amp, and the tones are all really good. There's nothing cheap about it, and especially when you're going through like the 2-notes Torpedo Captor X and you've got your headphones on and you're just playing along. You could quite easily have this set up with like a Katana 50 going through the 2 notes. And you're just getting a beautiful sound. I think the computer chips in them all are pretty much the same. You're not relying on the speaker, and the sound that I'm getting out of these, it really is second to none in some cases. But again, there's all links in the descriptions for all the presets that I've put down, all the different playlists. I've tried to just put them in an order that makes sense for you guys. There's all instructions as well, just how to actually get these presets onto your Katana. You don't just open them up, just follow the instructions. It's pretty straightforward, but hope you really enjoyed the video, guys. There's just so many tones, so much fun to have with this. But until next time, take care. Bye.